The headline, Transition Crisis as over 200,000 learners fail to reach Form 4. Over 200,000 students who would have sat the 2024 KCSE exam are missing 4 years after completing their primary school education, raising questions about the government's push for a 100% transition. While the government insists that all KCPE candidates transition to secondary school, the number of students sitting the KCSE tells a different story, one of consistent decline. Data analyzed by the Standard from the past 3 cohorts of students reveals that over 568,000 learners who joined secondary school under the 100% transition policy have disappeared from the education system. This trend casts doubt on the policy's implementation, and it highlights challenges in retention, the real-life struggle of Kenyan families. In the last 3 years, City, all right, 568,000 learners who should have sat KCSE this year, last year, and the year before last did not. And the question is, why did they not complete basic education? More than 500,000 learners. Okay? 2024 KCSE cohort marks the sharpest decline to date. While 192,000 candidates sat for the KCPE exam in 2020, only 965,501 are sitting the KCSE this year. This gap is 213,691 students, and that's the highest and the largest since the policy's rollout in 2018. The revelation calls into question the 100% transition policy initiated by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, as the figures expose the persistent trend of student attrition. Since the policy's implementation, 3 cohorts have completed secondary school, with worrying patterns emerging. In 2022, the pioneer class of the transition policy revealed a discrepancy. 1,052,364 students sat for KCPE in 2018. Only 881,416 took KCSE 4 years later, a shortfall of 170,948. This decline continued in 2023, where 184,003 students who sat for 2019 KCPE were unaccounted for in the 2023 KCSE. The 100% transition policy was designed to guarantee every child's right to 12 years of basic education as mandated by the Constitution. Stakeholders are explaining possible scenarios that could have led to this decline, including students dropping out due to pressures of poverty or teenage pregnancy. We cannot ignore the realities. Many students, especially in marginalized areas, issues like poverty, teenage pregnancy, and the hidden cost of education force many to drop out despite the 100% transition policy. This is according to Willie Kuria, the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association chairman. He further indicates that class repetition may have also contributed to the decline. The practice of class repetition has been a common feature under 844. People don't repeat class in secondary school, do they?
You know, I'm looking at you this way
in primary,
I'm wondering.
Yeah.
You can, in theory, you can.
In secondary?
You can.
Okay, well, let's say. So, teenage pregnancy, get out of school, come back, you go back to the previous
yes,
class.
You can.
Poverty, drop out of school, not feel...
You can go back.
You go, come back to the previous class.
Yes, you can.
Okay. But then that cannot be... if you're coming back, then you'll be counted among the cohort that you've joined.
Yes, that's what will happen. There's a gap, isn't there?
Janet Modoni-Uko faulted the program for being short-sighted, as it only focuses on enrolling students in secondary school but lacks a clear path for ensuring continuity through the 4 years. For us to succeed in a 100% transition, we must empower sub-county schools, equipping them with the required infrastructure, teachers and other facilities for teaching and learning. That is true. Akelo Misori, Cooper Secretary General, argued that the 100% transition policy has not been properly executed. It lacks a sustainable way to ensure learners remain in school, over the 4 years. I mean.
There's a problem.
And
there is a serious problem.
It's a big one.
Yes.
These are very many
because
learners.
Those numbers are daunting. Those numbers speak of a system that is not doing very well.
We're talking about 20% every year, 20%, about 24% of the students who sit their KCPE, 20% of them drop out.
You know, this goes against the grain of everything that has been spoken of regarding, one, free primary education, and the need to transition everyone. This everyone hasn't been fulfilled over there. Right there.
This is a big thing. And then if you think about even what Janet is saying, a majority of the KCPE candidates end up in the sub-county schools.
Yes,
right? Now, what is the quality of education that they're getting in the sub-county schools? We've raised this issue before. Dr. Manyasa keeps asking this question. Says, look at the equity. Many of these day secondary schools in sub-county level are not well equipped. You don't have sufficient TSC teachers. You do not have sufficient labs. You don't have good number of schools. So this is, and then this is where the free day secondary education policy is allegedly being implemented. Now, if you have free day secondary school, why would many of these students be dropping out? It can't be because they lack school fees.
No, this isn't also the COVID period when you could say COVID prevented this and COVID brought about this. This isn't COVID. This is 2024.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is this one. Let's wait and see. So when the Catholic bishops released a statement about the quality of education that we're offering, we saw Julius Migos, the CS, release a statement immediately. Let's see if he was going to release a statement here.
He will release a statement.
Explaining how 200,000 plus students who should have been sitting KCSE this year are not sitting KCSE.
I am positive that he will find reason and that he will try to explain it. But whether that explanation will be satisfactory is what I doubt.
Yeah.
200,000.
That's a huge number. That's a very, very big number. That's a very big number. It is more than the number of students who qualify to go to university.
It is more, definitely. And you know, the thing that I find particularly disturbing is that you're talking about students in terms of numbers without realizing just the impact you're having, because 200,000 students represent 200 plus families.
Yep.
So what are we saying?
Yep.
The sacrifices that had been made prior to that, everything about their learning now simply goes to dust.
And where do they end up? So so they're not here. Where do they end up? Do they end up in the vocational training colleges that are run by counties? Do they end up there? Because if you could explain and say, all right, so this ones, they dropped out of secondary school, but then they went somewhere where they acquired a skill. You know, you can say, all right, so they did not go through the entire form up to Form 4, but then they went into another auxiliary learning where they got a skill at the vocational training colleges run by counties. Are we saying that? Or are we saying we just don't know?
We are saying this on their behalf. And they're the ones who should be telling us this. In fact, these numbers, by the time they're being highlighted, doesn't the ministry think they are the ones who ought to have highlighted this?
The ministry should be raising these issues.
They are the ones who should have raised it as an alarm and say, look, we are concerned about these numbers, because they are the ones who have the numbers. They're the repository for numbers when it comes to students.
Yep.
Now, the problem with the explanations that are required when such an occurrence is before us is now they become defensive. Okay? Now you want to present it as though, the figures aren't quite right. No, that's not the point. That's not
the point. Is 100% transition should mean 100% transition.
Yes.
And transition is not just 8 into Form 1.
No.
It should be 8 into Form 4.
This is
actually the transition should be getting into kindergarten, transitioning
right through
all the way to Form 4.
My friend, you're talking about the lives of these young people who are going to be getting older by the day.
Yeah.
If they're not being educated, what's happening to them? What are they doing? And what are we breeding?
Yeah.